What's up, YouTube? It's Carolina Calvin coming back to you with another video, and I got my boy MG. We're a bit late, but we're gonna do this Punisher review, and we have quite a bit to say about it and where we rank it in terms of the Marvel Netflix universe. I'll say, I'll go ahead and start out. It was great. Forget what all the reviewers said, because we're going to talk about that, how the reviewers have been extremely biased about, this whole series. But for the most part, the series has been great. The side characters have been great. There have been less ties in comparison to other shows in terms of, the bigger picture has been less ties in this series. And, they made a concerted effort to do that, just to really focus on this character. And Bernthal, I said this, reviewing Daredevil Season 2, has one of the best portrayals of a character in Marvel. Up there with Downey Jr. Charlie Cox is great as Daredevil. Hugh Jackman, I'm gonna include that. That's still Marvel stuff. Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. Patrick Stewart, we talked about this off the air. Patrick Stewart is very underrated. He gets a lot of shit because X3 was bad. But Bernthal in this series was great. The story was great. And, it's Punisher. It's going to be violent. So, there's going to be some extremely violent scenes. And that's what you expect. But for them to really just, the acting, the sound, they didn't really go big with the music, but the music they did use was great. I felt as though, because each series to me has an unlikable character. This one, MG, can you point out a character you didn't like that was first introduced in this series? Of course, you don't like Karen, but she's been around for a while.
Yeah, but they minimized her role, which I was really worried about coming into it. So yeah, she didn't annoy me.
Yeah, they did make it seem like she was gonna be like an important part of this series. She really wasn't. She helped. Oh, warning, spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, and I know I'm saying this late, but if you haven't seen it, there will be spoilers in this.
But unlikable character. Starting off, I didn't like what's it called?
Who?
What the hell is her name? The CIA agent.
Medina?
Yeah, Medina. I didn't like her the first couple times I seen her, but as the show went on, she became one of the best characters on the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say there was a single character that I didn't like.
Cause it got to a point where the series is like, I'm ready for her and Punisher to actually meet, because they had a car chase scene, which was great, by the way. But they never really actually met. So they made sure they took their time before they met, because you knew it was going to be a big deal when they did meet, because she was actively searching him out. She was even risking her career to find the Punisher. And character I liked a lot, Micro. And if you don't know who Micro is, he's pretty much let's see what's the equivalent.
For him, the equivalent,
what Batgirl became when she got handicapped.
Yeah,
he's pretty much that.
Lucius Fox for Batman, if you're familiar with the movie version, obviously.
Yeah, he pretty much is the guy who makes who helps fund the Punisher's operations. He all the equipment. He does, of course he does all the hacking. He does all the whole tech side. He takes care of that, making weapons, armor. He takes care of that. So the Punisher can do what he's good at. So I thought his portrayal of that character was really good. Also, the guy who played Jigsaw, who by the end of the series, you see that really falling through. He was great.
Yeah,
he was a slimy motherfucker. And that's what you like. He was slimy. You want your bad guy? You like, I hate that guy. Damn, that's awesome. That motherfucker was slimy, boy.
Yeah. And the thing I liked about him is if you weren't familiar with Jigsaw, obviously Punisher's big arch enemy from the comics, if you're not familiar with the Punisher comics, you had no idea he was the guy who was behind everything.
Yep.
You had no idea until it got revealed. So his acting was on point.
Yeah, it was. And the whole thing about this series, we kind of got we kind of got a showcase of why he does what he does. I mean, of course we read the comics, we know, but in Daredevil season 2, we kind of see he's killing gang members, that were tied to with his family, when the death of his family. But you find out in this series, even kind of showed it in the trailers that it goes a lot deeper, and you find out why it was pretty much a hit. It wasn't no random act. It was a hit. They were actively going after him. They were actively going after his family. And this really goes really deep into it. You just see heavy government involvement. You see some of the things he did when he was with the military. All the Black Ops things. That he did kill people, and then you saw that he wasn't. People see him as just some guy who just goes around and kills people. Mostly he kills bad guys. He kills drug dealers. Even in the comics, he kills drug dealers. But they made him, to me, he's, I know we talked about this. He's one of the more relatable characters in the entire series. Yeah, I'm saying, yeah, he kills people, but he's one of the more relatable characters. For one, he's a fan of Wu-Tang. He said it was next level shit. I was like, this series is legendary. Did you hear what this guy said? I literally went back and replayed it multiple times to make sure he said that. So, I really like the portrayal of the character. Like I said, he's the most relatable out of all these Netflix characters, and they showed that they humanized his character, because you saw in Daredevil season 2, most people saw him as a monster, a guy who didn't give a damn about who he killed. Which, if you followed him, he only killed certain people, but they really humanized the character in this, and saw. You saw he was having nightmares. He would see his wife, he would see his kids. They were doing like flashbacks, and they really show he'll never get over that. He's not like some people. Some people can get over stuff like he'll never get over that, and that's pretty much what fuels the character to do what he does. He's gonna go out and kill the people anyone who's like the people who killed his family. He's gonna go out there and hunt them guys down. But
yeah, the thing I like what they did with it is that coming into it, we were kind of worried that they were gonna tone him down, and then they came out and said that they weren't gonna make him a sympathetic figure. And the reaction that you see from a lot of these people reviewing it tells me that they didn't tone him down and it worked.
Yep. How
people are, a lot of these, PC warriors or SJWs are reacting to it.
Now I feel as though they still kind of somewhat made him a sympathetic character, in terms of just that he didn't give a shit about his own life. He was pretty much it's either them or me, or both of us.
Yeah, I think that's just natural as a human, though.
Yeah,
where you kind of just relate to a guy who kind of, like I said too, though. I think if you're an alpha male, you're gonna relate to the Punisher.
Yeah.
I don't see how if you're an alpha male you don't relate to him, because that's one of those things where you be like, okay, if I was in his shoes, I'd do the same thing.
Yeah, he hated social media, he hated hipsters, and he liked Wu-Tang. And
his family got murdered by his people, like his own partners in the military. You know what I'm saying? Like, you'd be on a war path too. If you both your kids and your wife got killed by people who were supposed to be, ride or die, life or death with you.
Yep. That's the type of character. He takes no shit. Like, some of these other characters, you just imagine how they were handled. They wouldn't go around killing people. They wouldn't go around killing the people that's involved. Like, he's willing to get information. If it's a guy who's even close to being involved, he'll torture you. It's just he's that character who's like, he's more on he's not as far over as the bad guy. The bad guy will do anything. He'll kill innocents or whatever. But he's over that line in terms of good guy, good guy, bad guy. He's more so towards the bad guy. But he doesn't just go around killing civilians. This is not what he does.
No, he's got his own moral compass.
Yeah. And you saw it in this when, he could have easily let Medina die when the car exploded, but he chose to pull her out, even revealing his identity, thinking she wouldn't remember. But it just kind of shows you that, he's not just a mindless killing machine. Pretty damn good at it, though.
Yeah, he is. Really good at it.
Pretty damn good at it. I'll tell you that. And I like they showed that he how much of a strategist he was. That was plenty of times he was getting he was getting shot and everything. But one of the first times we really saw it was when I can't remember the other guy's name, but they were in the woods, and he pretty much made a strategy. He got some help from Micro, but it kind of showed you okay, this is the shit you see that goes on in the comics, and that was kind of really showcasing what we see in the comics. Micro was talking to him with the earpiece, pretty much had the drone, and he pretty much surveyed the whole area, and he was helping them. And Punisher was really going off that, and that reminded me. That particular scene right there reminded me so much of the Daredevil comics. At least when Micro became a very important part in terms of the Punisher's missions or whatever. Also, that scene was visceral as hell. Really no music. All you heard was the sound of gunshots. And then we killed the last guy. He came up behind him. He came out the leaves. Bro, that shit was badass, man. It was badass.
Beast.
A lot of people give the show shit because it's a slower, it's a slower pace. To first start out, and then it's really focusing on him and how he, really, he's still suffering from his family being killed. You know what? You're not gonna get over some shit like that. So hell yeah, that's what's gonna motivate him. Then also them trying to set up the other characters, because these are characters we've never seen before. It's not like we're seeing a Daredevil season 2 with Daredevil. All his characters are established. You introduce some new ones, but this one, the story's much deeper than people think. Than people thought coming into it. I knew it was gonna be pretty deep, but a lot of people who don't know a lot about the Punisher, they know of the Punisher. They've seen the movies, which Bernthal's portrayal blows those guys away, and just the way the story was told blows all those other guys away. But some of your favorite scenes.
Ooh, favorite scenes?
Yeah, I know you got a handful of them.
Yeah. The scene where he when he was still working at the construction site.
Oh yeah.
Where he was taking dudes out with the sledgehammer.
He
smacked my man
he
with
hit
it in
the dude
face.
across the eye with that shit, yo. No, it was across the jaw with a sledgehammer full swing. Oh man. Or when the one guy tried to bounce and he went after him, he was just like the dude was in his car, he just shot him from the passenger side right through the head. He thought he was gonna get away. Come on.
I really liked the beginning too, because they had him. He thought it was all over. At the beginning, you see him basically kill all the people that he, was supposed to be involved with the story that they told in Daredevil.
Yep.
Right, with the original, and he thought he was done. So he was just living a normal life, and he really wasn't trying to go there. And then they brought it out of him.
Yep.
And I think I've seen a lot of people complain about him not being, quote unquote, the Punisher throughout the entire series. But I think with the way that the story was told in Daredevil and here, it's not necessarily a role he's fully embraced yet. He's doing this the Punisher is a character who is fighting, quote unquote, crime and killing people for the sake of it. But that's not this Punisher yet. He hasn't turned into that guy yet. This is the guy who's avenging his family.
Yeah, because what he became in the comics was just a guy who killed drug dealers. You know, they had no tie. Of course, those guys in the comics later on didn't have no tie to his family. He just killed them because they were drug dealers. They were murderers.
Mm-hmm.
But this, every person he killed, he had a different reason. It was all tied to his family. That was his reasoning. You know, you saw at the beginning, he was killing gang members who were tied to his family's death. Later on in the series, he was killing. You know, of course, he stepped up his game and went to secret military personnel that were tied to his family's death. Once he found out how deep it actually went.
Yep. So that scene, I think the final fight with Jigsaw was really good.
Oh, you talking about the end and on the carousel? Like,
yes.
Oh man, that was brutal. Like you see guys, you know, it wasn't a clean fight. You saw guys like cutting and stabbing each other. And that's one thing that I always like, especially with like Daredevil. But this one, he was getting fucked up throughout the series. He got shot multiple times. He got hit with an arrow. You know, that pretty much got infected and he got sick. He almost died from that. He almost died. It was like episode 12. Like, when he was like being tortured and everything. Like,
oh, that torture. The torture was it got really good when he got free.
Oh yeah, When he had to fight that guy, and the guy wanted to like, I guess, take his eye or whatever, because that's what
for eye.
Yeah, he should have just shot him. Like you get for trying to get some revenge, you get fucked up. Just go back. I know, you know, obviously whoever's watching this video, you've seen it because we're talking about spoilers. But you know how brutal that scene was, bloody as hell. Or when when he finally came out with the Punisher logo, the skull logo. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he was like killing dudes, and he had like shotguns in the like the ceiling. Like he was pulling shotguns down from the ceiling. Yes. He had it all planned out. He had it all planned out for these dudes.
That junk was so dope.
Yeah.
So dope.
Yeah. So I mean, they're setting up season 2. I don't know exactly where they're gonna go. I'm pretty sure they're gonna go Jigsaw, but
yeah, because they haven't officially announced that they were doing a season 2, but there's no way they can't.
There's no way. I think it's happening. Hopefully, they're not listening to the PC reviews who talking about, oh, it's just a white guy with guns, or you know, he's out there, he's, you know, just outright, he's just out there killing people. Watch the show. A lot of these people that I've seen talk about it, they went into it. They knew it was a guy who was like that, so they already had the bias. And honestly, I don't think they went through the entire series. Honestly, I don't think they went through the entire series.
Or they weren't familiar with them either, though. You know, it's the same thing with like it's the Iron Fist thing all over.
Yeah.
You know, where they wanted it to be an Asian guy who does kung fu because he's a character who does kung fu, and I'm like, no, he's always been a white guy. Now, obviously, people have their opinions on the Iron Fist series in terms of how good or bad it was, but I liked it. But it's just a lot of people aren't necessarily informed. He's not. I wouldn't put, you know, Punisher's not one of those. He's not Spider-Man in terms of popularity, or, you know, Batman. He's not on that level of popularity. He's always been one of the like true comic lovers, fan favorites.
And here's the weird thing: like these same PC people who talk about Iron Fist being Asian, isn't that like a stereotype?
Yep.
Like, so you're trying to tell me no one else can learn kung fu or anything, or any type of martial art?
Exactly.
Yeah. Just you don't even have to read a fucking comic. Just Google Iron Fist comic, and it'll show multiple pictures that he's a fucking white guy.
Yeah, and I think a character like Punisher is good for comics. For the simple fact of he gives you a different dynamic, and that before we got on the air, I said I like the dynamic between him and Daredevil. because they are so opposite in terms of what they represent. You know, the non-killing thing, you know, letting the law, you know, hand out the justice and stuff like that. They're so different, and I think Punisher is needed for a you know, Punisher is needed to kind of bring you to a more grounded reality of what this stuff really is.
Yeah, and
you know,
it did. That's why I think they didn't really want to talk, because you know, with the Defenders there was a lot of mysticism. Of course, Iron Fist. Then you know, with Elektra, the Hand, how there was a lot of like they started bringing mysticism in it. This shit,
yeah,
this is all grit and dirt. That's what that is. And they tried, you know, they did their best to not even mention them. Of course, you had your ties. Karen was your biggest one, but they didn't even really talk about anything that happened with Defenders. We can pretty much assume it happened after the series takes place after.
Yeah, because Karen had moved away from. She had moved away, didn't she?
Yeah, she cause she wasn't living in Hell's Kitchen, was she?
No, I don't think so. And she had to be like completely separate because she had no ties to Murdoch. Obviously, what you've seen in the Defenders, where she's just fed up with him.
Yeah, didn't even mention him at all.
Mm-hmm.
So they definitely made a concerted effort to stay away from that mysticism thing with the Punisher, because you know. You want that. They want that a little bit more realistic, you know, per se. They want it, you know, grounded in reality, and you know, I think they did a good job. I'm not even mad that there were no references. I really fucking like this series.
It's up there. It's probably my favorite. I gotta watch it a second time because I've watched Daredevil probably about 2 or 3 times now. Well, yeah, 3 times. So it's definitely up there. I like how they portrayed Punisher. I like the story they told. They could have went further with the violence. You know, they didn't go as far as they could have. And it was still pretty violent.
I think a big reason because of that, because you know they were really setting up a lot of the characters. So I think, you know, when the next season happens, I think it's definitely going to be more violent.
Good.
You're setting up Medina. You were setting up Jigsaw in the future. You were setting up Micro. You were going more into his story. Now that his story's pretty much, in terms of his origin, really explaining why he was doing the things he was doing, and the fact that it did go deeper than what he initially realized. Now that he's essentially washed his hands, so to speak, of it, now we're gonna go into him being the Punisher.
Yeah, because you kind of seen that at the end of the season where he didn't know where to go after he finished everything.
Yeah, so we'll see how they handle the next season and then what kind of story they do. But this story, how it was told, how it was acted, and it's a surprise. People thought it was gonna be. From the trailers, they thought, you know, or just what they saw from Daredevil season 2, they thought it was gonna be like balls to the walls, action, blood, and gore. It was not that. It was not that. No,
you gotta get there.
The other shows, like Iron Fist, probably had more action.
Yeah,
now, not nearly as violent as this show, but you're definitely gonna see him pick it up because. Of course, they had to do. You know, it had to be character development, had to be story development. But I would like to see him with, like you said, with Daredevil, because you have one guy in Daredevil who, you know, you can essentially say he's the goody good in terms of comparing the two. And Punisher's that guy. Punisher's like the little devil on your shoulder.
Yep, that's always made the dynamics between him and Daredevil, or him and Spider-Man. Anytime they've done anything in the comics, that's what's always kind of made them a lot more unique in terms of a pairing. Like, you know,
what was it? You go back to, I think it was season 2 when he was the Irish, when he purposely got kidnapped.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all just so he can get them all in one place, so he can kill them all. And Daredevil eventually shows up, and we're like they're fighting in the same room, they're beating up the guys. Witch Girl's trying to kill these dudes. He picked up a fucking hammer. He's about to hit this dude. He's about to hit this dude over the head with a hammer. And Daredevil just like throws his like the baton thing, knocks it out of his hand, and said no killing. And it kind of showed you the dynamic between those characters in about a couple minute scene. Like the scenes when they were both fighting in that room together didn't last very long, but you kind of saw the dynamic between the two characters and how,
when they were both on the rooftop. Then he taped the gun to Daredevil's hand.
Oh,
and was trying to make him choose.
That was great. That was definitely great. One thing I thought they should have put in was it was a quote that he said. I don't remember the whole quote for the Punisher, but it went something like, "The criminals laugh at the law because they essentially like are the law, but they don't laugh at me." So it was something like that, but it was fucking pretty bad. And I wanted to hear him say it in the raspy voice. I wanted to hear him say that. But overall, I thought going into it, I already said after Daredevil season 2, the character was essentially redeemed. Now I don't think some of the guys who did the movies, I don't think they're the worst, but the character wasn't done entirely justice. Really, maybe it was the movies, but. Once you saw
I think the movies were just bad.
Yeah, then you had to condense it into a movie, and it just didn't come out right. Because the first movie was like the origin. The second movie was him established. They were done by two different actors, and I just don't feel as though it's as good as this. Nor the storytelling. Storytelling was definitely not as good as what we saw in this particular series. But,
this is probably. I mean, it'd be hard for me to rate it. It is at the point where I probably couldn't choose between this or the Daredevil seasons because I really liked the Punisher series. But the writing on it was great. The story that they told was great. And that's one of their strengths. On the Marvel shows is that they kind of lay out a blueprint and. Even with the Punisher's origin being told somewhat in Daredevil season 2, they found out a way, and they weren't even talking about doing a Punisher show when they wrote that originally. The popularity of it kind of skyrocketed the Bernthal and Punisher into getting their own show. Yeah. So they didn't write themselves into a corner with how they wrote them in Daredevil season 2, and then it allowed them to kind of expand on his story for the actual Punisher series. So that was really smart.
We didn't know what's like. When we saw Disney Marvel, they ended up getting back because at the same time, they got back Punisher, Blade,
and Moon Knight.
Yeah. Hold up, and they got back Ghost Rider. They got Ghost Rider
Punisher,
back.
Blade, Moon Knight, and Ghost Rider.
Yeah, they got all those characters back, some including Elektra, who was tied to the Daredevil stuff. And we didn't know.
Tied to Punisher now. A lot of people want to see that Punisher Elektra thing stuff too.
Yep. And then we didn't know what they were going to do with it because they haven't done nothing with those other. Well, they did something with Ghost Rider. He's of course in Agents of Shield. We didn't know okay, what are they gonna do with Blade? Okay, Punisher, shit. Punisher kind of needed to be redeemed. They ended up doing that in Daredevil season 2, and then of course this series ended up coming up because there was rumors about they were gonna do this series. There were even rumors we kind of thought he would at some point be in Defenders. That didn't happen. Then of course the series, we got his first trailer. I'm like, yes. That's what we want to see. We want to see a different character. You have to look at it. Iron Fist. He's more on the goody, kind of naive side. Daredevil. He's not gonna he's not gonna go out and kill the bad guy. He's still as much as a vigilante can, fights within the confines of the law. He still lets the law handle him, in the end. Jessica Jones could give a fuck. Luke Cage is very similar to like kind of how Daredevil is. Not so. He's not as I guess focused or because Daredevil got to a point where it almost became like a mental thing. It was like a mental issue. He became obsessed with being Daredevil, but Luke Cage very similar. He wasn't gonna outright go out and kill people. Punisher, as he told Daredevil in season 2, when I hit him, they don't get back up. Straight up said that, and he doesn't care how he takes him out. He's not gonna go in there, flipping around and all that. That's Daredevil's thing. That's Iron Fist's thing. What he's gonna do is, you're gonna see a motherfucking grenade fly through the window, lights gonna cut off, and bullets gonna be flying everywhere. You ain't gonna know where it's coming from. And then the lights cut back on. There's a room of bodies and blood. I mean, that's just the way he works. I mean, he's the type of guy who, he's chasing a bad guy. I mean, you look at the beginning series. He sniped some dude on some straight up wanted shit. The motherfucker was he was across town. I don't know if y'all ever seen Gogol 13. That reminded me of that shit. He sniped a dude, and I'm pretty sure he ate a cheeseburger afterwards. This is the type of guy you don't give a fuck. He kill a dude, eat a cheeseburger afterwards. Sleep like you don't sleep like a baby just because of nightmares or whatever. But it's just the way he works. And I like that. He's a different character.
Yeah, I think he opens up doors for. I think he opens up doors for Netflix shows.
They need to have in that route. They need to have a Moon Knight who's like a character who has issues and a character who will go out and kills people too. Same with Blade. They need to do those 2 series now. I feel as though they need to do them.
Yep, and I think that's what the Punisher is going to end up doing is opening the door for a Blade and Moon Knight series, which a lot of people thought Moon Knight was going to debut in Punisher since he's a former Marine too. Mark Spector, the guy who played Moon Knight. But they didn't show him in here obviously. But the talks about having a Moon Knight series, that's probably out of characters who haven't debuted yet, that's probably been one of the strongest things we've heard in terms of new characters to get their own series or movie has been Moon Knight. So it's probably gonna happen. They're setting up. They just got done wrapping Luke Cage season 2. They just
they finished Jessica Jones.
Yeah, they finished Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones started filming earlier this year. Luke Cage started filming in the fall. And they just wrapped up Luke Cage within the past couple weeks. Daredevil just started filming in October?
Oh, okay.
I think. I think all 3 are done filming. Actually, I think all 3 are in post production. Then you got Iron Fist, obviously, and then I wouldn't be surprised if after those 4, we get a Moon Knight because Marvel's pushing for these series to come out faster than 1 whole year apart now, so you'll probably be getting the series maybe 7-8 months apart now. So Moon Knight definitely would be great, and it'd be the first on-screen portrayal.
Hey man, you wanna know something funny?
What?
The Punisher exists in the same universe that Howard the Duck is in. Just think about that. Howard the Duck exists in the same universe that the Punisher's been doing all this shit in.
True.
Just think about that for a second. Just think about that shit for a second. Because it's still tied to the movie universe. There are some subtle ties to it. There's actually I actually had to look this shit up. But a tie to as I mentioned Black Widow and VHS tape. It's during the scene in the movie where the guy stabs the fat guy in his own house. Brutal, mind you. But during that scene, I was too pumped to say the truth. I was like, "Yo, what the fuck?" That's how I was during the scene to see any kind of Easter eggs. So that's essentially how much I was into what was happening with the actual characters. And he was essentially a minor character, but you saw he was going through PTSD and. He was trying to, he even did a really good job, surprisingly. Do you think they should have killed him off?
Kill who off?
I can't remember the guy's name, but he was the guy. He was pretty much, he had sent the letter to Karen and them. You know, that was the guy who killed. He was like the ex-military guy. He was like living in the trench or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think they should have killed him off.
I don't. Yeah, I'm saying that's what I'm saying.
I think they should have. I think they should have wrote him into a villain.
Yeah.
You know, which is interesting considering. You know, you've had. I mean, obviously, the origin story for whatever villain they would have chose would have been different from what it was in the comics. But
yeah.
I think the story, you know, you kind of seeing how the guy became a villain. I think it would have made sense, and it would have gave, you know, even if it was an original villain, you know, he didn't have to be, you know, Jigsaw or one of his arch nemesis or anything, but he could have been somebody that was a recurring villain.
Yeah, it could have been somebody entirely new.
Mm-hmm. And it would have. I think it would have worked out. So yeah. I think they missed the opportunity with that.
Yeah, definitely could have been something they could have done in the future. You know, it could have been like he could have got like he would like gave up and then like went to like some psych ward or some shit like that. I honestly think they could have done more with the character. That was probably one of my few gripes with the show was I thought they could have done more with that character. Later on.
Definitely was. He was one of the stronger characters in the series.
That's crazy because he wasn't even like he was. You saw a few scenes with him. You know, he was doing the whole counseling thing. You know, you saw when one of Frank's like close friends, you know, who did the counseling, when he like went to talk to him and found out he was living in the trench. But for the most part, you know, it really wasn't outside of course scenes where you just finally the switch finally flipped and he just fucking snapped out. He killed that. You killed that one guy. For the most part, he was pretty minor, but I thought he did a really good job of really showing that, you know, he was fucked up in the head. So I think they could have done more with that. But out of all the things, like, I kind of thought, what's the guy's name? Sam. What was it? Sam? Was it Sam? It was Medina's partner. I can't remember his name for some.
Oh yeah, I think it was it Sam?
I can't remember his name. I don't know why, but I'm coming into it. I didn't think I would like him, but he turned out to be a pretty good character, and then they ended up fucking killing him. And
yeah,
I was like, and you can see the look on the acting, the look on his face was like, it wasn't even that he was about to die. He was like, he was surprised, like that. It was this motherfucker all along.
Which I think was actually needed for him to get killed once it all happened, because it kind of led way to Medina understanding that, you know, by the book, by the law, isn't always going to get the job done, which kind of led into Punisher being able to do what he did, you know, at the end. So I thought it all worked out.
Yeah, it was a big reason that really led to her, you know, really helping him. You know, kind of was like it added to development of like really her character, her, you know, essentially really becoming an ally. And she was already like at the beginning, she already didn't want to go by the book just because she was wondering why did they keep telling her to, you know, drop, you know, the case or whatever. And, you know, then they bugged her room, so she knew there was more going on. But even still, no, she was having a talk with I'm gonna call him Micro. She was having a talk with him, and even he started, you know, as he met Castle and he saw all the shit that was going on because he had a lot of bullshit with the government. He told her the only way to beat the bad guys is become like the bad guys, and that's what the Punisher essentially is. He's a monster. He's a monster that kills monsters. That's what he does. But what's your score, and where would you rank it amongst all the Netflix shows? Oh yeah, I know, like, cut you on the spot for that.
I think I gave Daredevil season 2 a 9.5.
Shit.
And I think I gave season 1 a 9. So I'm actually gonna give Punisher 9.5.
Whoo!
I'm gonna put it up there tied. Because it's hard for me to choose between the two.
Yeah, it is.
Because like I said, Punisher to me is a lot more relatable than Matt Murdock and Daredevil.
Yep.
You know, both are amazing actors, but just as actual characters, I relate to Punisher way more. So I was able to get into the show a lot more.
Motherfucker said Wu-Tang was next level. How is he not
Right.
relatable? How is he? How, like, coming out of that? How is he not? How can someone say, "Oh, he's not relatable"? He said Wu-Tang was next level shit. The little kid wearing the Wu-Tang shirt, he said it was next level shit. And he talked to the little kid like he was talking to like you and me talking. He didn't talk to him like he was a kid. It's like, yo, man, come on, dog.
That was it, man. That the series was like great, and I mean, it's better. It's definitely better than all the other series
Oh yeah.
outside of Daredevil. It's just a matter of where you rank it amongst them. Like I said, I got it tied with season 2 of Daredevil. If there was more violence in it, I would have gave it a 10. Like, that's how close I am to just. There was nothing wrong with the series.
Nope. We pointed
You
out
know?
that really that one thing was that they could have done more with that one character they killed off. But other than that, everything else was done great. Like, every single one of these series, I've come out really, I could point out, say, okay, that was one character I didn't really like. This one, not really. I can't think of a new character they introduced that I didn't like.
So it's.
So what about score?
You said what score?
Yeah, score.
Yeah, I'm settling on 9.5. I'm putting it tied with Daredevil
9.5
season 2. Yeah,
Sticking with
9.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna rate it. Ooh. I'll just do because it's in the top 3. At least if we're going by seasons, not entire series. Season 2 of Daredevil, which guess what? So happens to introduce the Punisher, which helped out making that one of my favorites of the entire Netflix universe thing. Season 1 of Daredevil will be next. Wilson Fisk was the best villain and one of the best villains for any fucking superhero show, no matter what its name is. And then I'll put the Punisher. I'll get a Punisher. I got Daredevil season 2 at a 9.5. I'll get a Punisher and Daredevil season 1 a 9. I get both those a 9. Honestly, I'm gonna watch it again, and that ranking could change, that score could change, but if you're like, you don't have to be a fan of comics. If you're a fan of like stories, like if you're watching it, going through this entire video, watch this show. And if you've seen it already, watching this video, watch it again. Because that shit was good. And they finally, because this year Iron Fist didn't do too well, and I think I didn't like Iron Fist per se. Defenders was solid. A lot of people didn't like it, but this one really, to me, people won't see it on the surface, but it really changed things up. And you went back to being dark, even darker than it normally is, and really going into character development, really going into good character development, and really good supporting characters, and a deep story. So I would say Iron Fist story wasn't super deep. It wasn't deep, nor was Defenders, because Defenders was pretty much like the team up thing.
Yeah, I think Iron Fist was more so about setting up Defenders than actually Iron Fist.
I think that was one thing that definitely hurt it, because it was trying to set up the Defenders instead of really going deep into the character, which they did try to do, especially early on. But once they started introducing the hand thing, you can see, I'm like, yeah, because we know the hand's gonna be the big villain for it. I was like, yep, there's your tie. And then once you watch Defenders, you see how important Iron Fist was. Like, yeah, his show was essentially to set up this. And I think that's what really hurt the series. And Defenders was pretty much just the team up. The most you saw in terms of any character story building was just bringing all the characters together and why they come together. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, season 2 has a lot of promise.
Yeah,
It's if they can kind of and that's the thing about the Netflix shows. I think out of all the properties that these comic book companies have been doing, I think the Netflix shows have been the most consistent so far. With the DC TV stuff, they've had more good than bad. Obviously, with Flash, season 2 of Supergirl, the first couple seasons of Flash were really good. Arrow was good for out of all the seasons of Arrow, probably 2 have been really bad, 2.5. Legends has been good. The second and third season. First season was trash. Yeah, second and third season are good. I think this Netflix run has been pretty consistent. Like I said, but that's coming from me. I mean, I enjoyed Iron Fist. A lot of people did not, which I can understand why you wouldn't. I have my issues with Luke Cage the second half of the season.
Oh yeah.
After they killed off Cottonmouth.
Yeah, you could tell he was really carrying the series.
Yeah, show went downhill because Coulter's acting isn't the greatest. He just fits the role.
Like more so than just about anybody else, he just looks like the character.
Yeah, and then Jessica Jones. A lot of people have that ranked in like their top 2 or 3. I like Jessica Jones not as much as some other people did.
The supporting characters are weak.
And her supporting characters are weak, and not only that, but her as a character,
Purple Man was
to
great.
me, it gets a little bit dull sometimes. Because sometimes it feels like it's just the same thing over and over with her. But I mean, that could all change in season 2. Obviously, it still was a great series.
Yeah, they have to go away from because she's like a very sulking, she sulks a lot. So I think they go away from that. But the best to me, honestly, she was good. I liked her, but it's kind of the same thing. It's very similar to what Luke Cage. Purple Man carried it for me.
Yeah, and she doesn't really have the strongest list of villains Rogue Gallery. When it comes to the Daredevil, super strong. Punisher. Obviously, Jigsaw's his arch nemesis, but he shares a lot of villains with a lot of these people. Kingpin, obviously, is the guy that he shares with the Spider-Man and the Daredevil. So I think Punisher is gonna be okay. Luke Cage, he's kind of shared a lot of different villains over the years too. Yep. Same with Iron Fist. So it's all gonna vary. I think Jessica Jones is the one that is in the most danger in terms of villain wise, because there really isn't much. I mean, outside of what's his name, Nuke. Yeah, I mean, which you'll see them probably dive into that more in the next season with how his character kind of got wrote off last year. But yeah, she just doesn't have the strongest list of villains, and I think that's gonna hold her back because these villains have, I don't want to say carried the Netflix shows, but they've been one of the reasons why they've been so good. When you look at Kingpin and Jigsaw, like we mentioned, and Cottonmouth, and Sojourner Weaver, in Defenders was great. Yep. Rand and all 3 of the Rands in Iron Fist were pretty solid. Outside of Joy, she got annoying as the season went on, but their villains are solid. So we'll see. We'll see what they do with Jessica Jones.
Do you think they do? Because it's not entirely confirmed that Elektra's dead. Do you think they do something with that?
I don't know. A lot of people want an Elektra show. I don't know if she's strong enough to carry a solo.
Maybe not.
Yeah. I think if she does something, though, it has to be with another character, maybe in an Iron Fist or with a Punisher who she's kind of tied to now. But as a solo show, I don't. The only real villain out of these shows that I think deserves a solo is Kingpin.
I mean,
and that's because his reach.
Fucking badass, man.
Yeah, and his reach in terms of who he's fought with is so vast. And I think Punisher. I mean, and the thing about Punisher is, which a lot of people don't understand, is that Punisher isn't necessarily. We already know he's not necessarily a hero, but he's been a hitman for a lot of people.
Yep.
And he's worked for Kingpin at certain points.
Yep.
If it gets him to his goal, kind of similar to when he broke out of jail, in Daredevil season 2, he's worked. And I think he was a Born Sinner, or that he did something with Kingpin.
Ooh, I don't remember. It's been a while.
Because I know that's where Bullseye first showed up, which is what they're doing for season 3. I don't know if they're doing Bullseye, but they're doing Born Sinner.
Yeah, you can even just bring up Daredevil season 2. You see what we had to do to those guys in that prison?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of potential for the Punisher character, for the simple fact of if it fits his mission, he will do it.
Pretty much. If it allows him to kill the fucking drug dealers, the same scumbag. I mean, just go look at the scene in the courtroom, dude. I do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that. But I think we're done. Yeah, we pretty much covered everything Marvel. Some of the Netflix series, some of the things we want to see. I think they have a lot more than people think, because we know they're gonna do Daredevil season 3, but people are like, are they gonna do the same seasons for the same show? I think they have a lot more than people think. We mentioned the prospect of Elektra. Could happen, probably not.
They're sticking a lot closer to the source material than the
movies. They seriously are. Honestly, they've had more consistent good villains than the movies have. Now there's 18, 19 movies, something like that. So okay, yeah, you're gonna have some bad villains, but consistently, can you name? Because I feel as though every single Netflix series had. Let's see, who was it? This was essentially the Hand, who were great, so they count as well.
Yeah, Diamondback was the only one I didn't like.
Yeah, I like more so Cottonmouth. But Cottonmouth was great. Yeah. So
Black Mariah was good the first half.
Yeah.
And then Shades was great.
So it was like, okay, Luke Cage had a good villain in it. Iron Fist had the Hand, good villain. Daredevil had Wilson Fisk, and he had the Hand, so we'll count that as one with Iron Fist. Jessica Jones had Purple Man, great. Punisher had pretty much, let's just say Jigsaw, because he was the one really manipulating everything when it came down to it. He was the guy he ended up fighting at the end, so yeah, I'm counting him as a villain. I mean, how many great villains were in the movies?
Yeah.
There's been a great villain in each one of these series. No matter if you didn't like this, you didn't like the series or not. I felt as though the villains were done well.
Yeah, and that more consistent in
the movies.
Than the movies, whether it be DC or Marvel, than the TV shows, whether it be DC or Marvel.
Yeah, so
Netflix is killing it.
Yeah, so prospect. They have the prospect of a Moon Knight, who's I think a character who suffers from multiple personality disorder. You could do a lot with that. You could do a whole fucking. You can make one. You could definitely make pretty like a mental show. And I probably had another word for it, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Blade. Everybody's gonna remember Wesley Snipes' thing, so that means the character's already recognizable up to this point.
And he fits into a lot of these shows. If you wanted to, he could easily fit into Daredevil. Now that they've kind of introduced the supernatural element, I think he could easily fit into Punisher. There's this long-standing kind of thing between Punisher and Blade in the comics where, sometimes they're on the same side, sometimes they're not. It's this weird relationship that they have. A lot of times their goals are the same, but they just don't like each other. So I think that works. Moon Knight, I think, works with Punisher to a degree, since they didn't necessarily go supernatural with Punisher. It works to a degree with the Marine background of Moon Knight. But in the grittiness of Moon Knight, obviously, So they set themselves up pretty good, and you never know. There might be other characters they're thinking about introducing to Netflix. I mean,
You never know. It could be a character completely out the blue that we would think like, oh shit, well that's a smaller like Jessica Jones. She's like D level character. No one knows who the fuck that is. Like,
and she's probably the newest out of all the characters too, in terms of when she debuted in comics.
yeah, she like I remember her most really from the New Avengers, and that's because Luke Cage is a part of the New Avengers. So,
because when did Jessica Jones start? Early 90s.
I don't remember exactly.
I know it's
but she definitely
pretty
one of the
recent,
younger
though.
characters, yeah, in terms of
And
how long she's been out. Really, the only character that people like you could say was like a B-list character. Daredevil. Daredevil's the only higher tier character. One, the movie helped, and you could say the same thing about the Punisher. And the movie helped not so much because the movies aren't that great, but especially Ben Affleck, Daredevil, ill. But yeah, like in terms of comics, he's had some really, really legendary comics.
I wonder if they got the rights to what's it called?
Who?
Dakin.
Do they?
I don't know, because Dark Reign would be an interesting thing to do for Marvel Netflix.
Yeah. Like I said, they could do so much, and like they really try to stick more to the comic. Not there's some obviously some disconnect. Luke Cage, I think Luke Cage is probably the biggest disconnect from the comics with his origin. Why? Because he's not from New York. And Grits is for you, dog. I'm bringing that up because I know you was fucking pissed. Like, he didn't even want to watch the series no more because he was like this dude's from New York. Like he's from, even at that, that's like there was no significance behind doing that.
No, they had him from Georgia via way of Chicago.
It's like, what? What was the significance? Like, they didn't even go into his, like, they could have just been like, okay, he went to prison, they shipped him to somewhere else. Bam! That's why it happened there. They didn't have
Plus
to do
the fact that it was Chicago, and you got the New York-Chicago thing going on. Of course, Chris was going to be upset.
Yeah. I mean, this guy's known for being from New York. So I think that was probably one of the biggest origin blunders in the entire Netflix series. Most don't really stand out but that one stands out really well in terms of a big fuck up. But go ahead and give the people your information, and we get up out of here.
You can find me on Twitter, Virtuoso Sports, during the week on Bliss Sports Network.
And of course, you guys know on Twitter, Calvin Philpott. We talk about all this on there. And if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Thanks for watching.